The title of my story is A Mansion in Killiney Road. Did you know that in 1957, there was a huge mansion on Killiney Road? And this mansion had seen better days. It used to belong to a wealthy Peranakan family, but I don't know what happened. Apparently, after the war, it became kind of dilapidated because of the bombing during the Second World War, and apparently it was owned by only, or rather the owner appeared to be only the one Peranakan lady who could have been descended from the rest. Well, anyway, this mansion, being such a huge mansion, had many rooms, and each room has an extension, a kind of living area. And what is interesting is that the people who lived there were very interesting people. So I still recall this family, mother, father, and a daughter. And the wife, or the mother, was a very devout Buddhist. And every morning we would see her chanting the sutra, and she would be dressed in a black gown. And then there's another family of 5, father, mother again, 2 girls, 2 daughters, and a mother-in-law. And he was a very filial son, a very good husband, a very good father, the ideal man, you know, in the family, head of the family. But in contrast, there was another family whereby the husband was a coolie and unfortunately a wife basher. So occasionally we would hear her, the wife, screaming away, and we could just deduce that it could be, you know, a daughter, mother-in-law relationship, and the mother-in-law whispering to the son. So that was how we deduced when we were young. And these were roughly the families. And then I recall our immediate family was a lady who would give birth every other year. And the interesting thing is that, you know, the partitions could be quite thin, right? So my sister and I would eavesdrop, especially during the time of labor. You know, in those days, people don't necessarily go to hospital. They would give birth in the home. So she would give birth in her room, and a midwife would be in attendance. And we would just hear her groaning away, apparently child labor, cries, and so on. So that were the interesting people in that mansion. And I'm going to talk about the kitchen. So you can deduce, right, since there were so many families and so many rooms, everyone had to share a communal kitchen. So we were allotted a space where we would put likely a cooking stove and then some paraphernalia. I can't remember whether I said this, but my family lived in one of the rooms. Yeah. So occasionally, because of the fire hazard, a fire could break out. You know those kerosene lamp, stove, sorry. So a fire could break out, or when a fire break out, someone would just scream, "Fire!" And then those around would just help to douse the flame. So it was like that in those days. Unless it's a huge fire, there was no need to call the fire engine. And among the tenants, there were beautiful occasions where we would share food during festive seasons. A neighbor would bring a bowl of bobo cha cha to us, you know, and we would return with hor fun or whatever. But there were also times where they would quarrel, and bickering and quarrels were also very common. So occasionally we would hear, you know, loud screams and fights and so on. And when it gets very bad, the police will be called. So that was the kitchen and the happenings. And then there's a toilet. So you can imagine one toilet shared by all the residents. And usually people would keep a spittoon in the room because it's very inconvenient to go to the toilet in the night. And they had to empty it in the morning. Sorry, my voice. And so you can imagine there will be a queue, for the toilet. So whenever someone is in urgent need, the person will plead for the chance to go in first. So it was like that. Then over the years, as the mansion continued to age, there was this issue of electricity, because it's overloaded. So many families using the same electricity. Thank you so much. So a short circuit will be quite common. And whenever there's a short circuit, the whole mansion would be just blacked out. And that was where the tenants would use kerosene lamps and candles. And I still recall a time when it was our examination period. And my sister and I actually studied using candlelight, for our exam. But the flickering of the flame and the dripping of the wax used to fascinate me as a child. And that's where my imagination would go wild, overboard, and I would start dreaming and thinking of imaginary heroes and princesses and so on. So that's why today I'm not only a storyteller, I'm also a story writer. In me, So it all started during those early days, when we were studying using candlelight. Yeah, so it was like that. And also during thunderstorms, don't forget the building was already dilapidated. So there would be leaks, from the roof. And the residents would then carry pails and rags, to mop up. So that was the kind of living we had. But it was really very interesting. So Killiney Road today, you can guess, right? It's now an atas area. Condominiums and commercial buildings replaced the mansion. And today it is beyond the reach of many of us, including myself. Thank you.